Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for RPC's Money Talk series. We have had such a great lineup leading up to this, and I'm so excited about everyone here with me today. So welcome. I see a bunch of people filtering in, so I will give it a minute or so. While we get started, I encourage you to follow all of us on Instagram. So pull out your phones and Sari will load up our Instagram handles in the messages for you. But we'd love to have you follow us and kind of share along with you. So, okay, we have some more people coming. Our guests today are all incredibly experienced designers and planners. Each of them has been doing this for nearly 20 years and are a wealth of knowledge. So we're so excited to have all of them here today. And I want to introduce you to our planners, and then we'll just dive in. Beth from Beth Helmstetter Events is a global event designer based in LA. She designs events all over the world, and her work has appeared in Harper's, Martha Stewart, Elle, Brides, all the big names. And she's also the founder of The Good Beginning. And that's a place where couples can donate to a charity or a nonprofit of their choosing in lieu of or in addition to their wedding registry. Also, we have Heather Dwight of Calluna Events. Heather and I actually met at Engage recently, and she is one of the most sought after planners in Colorado. I apologize if you hear all the sirens in the background. And she and her team also plan destination events stateside. So her work has also been featured in Brides, Martha Stewart, Style Me Pretty, among many others. And Heather provides business coaching and mentoring. And in 2019, actually launched a new business, Love Well Planned, which focuses on workshops for wedding planners and wedding creatives. And last but certainly not least, Heather Lowenthal of Posh Parties is based in Palm Beach, Florida. And Beth and Heather Dwight both got their start in events through the nonprofit corporate world. Heather actually got her start in 2003 when she launched a custom stationery business in South Florida, which is beautiful. And that paved the way for Posh Parties as it is today, which opened in 2006. And her clients oftentimes take her to iconic South Florida venues like the Breakers, Four Seasons, so many beautiful places. So we are so excited to have all three of you here. So welcome.
Thank you
for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So we have lots of questions today, and I encourage anyone watching to chime in with any questions, and we will get to those at the end as well. So let's start with you, Beth. Besides having run your different brands and businesses, each of you work with high net clients and couples, which is the goal of many, many planners. Can we go around and start with you, Beth, and have each of you talk about your clients? Like, who are they? Where do they come from? What do they care about? And how do they find you?
Yeah. So you pretty much summed it up by saying high net worth individuals. That's mostly who we're working with. They live all over the world. We have a high following out of Los Angeles and San Francisco, some New York, some Texas. We also oddly have like clients out of Hong Kong that hire us pretty regularly. Cleveland, Ohio, strangely enough. But really anywhere where I've really kind of cultivated that referral network, that is going to be always the best and easiest way to kind of develop your market amongst kind of the high net worth individuals, because they're all kind of talking to each other about who they hired for their daughter's wedding and so on and so forth. Our clients care not only like, obviously what they want a beautiful wedding, that's a given. They want their guests to have a great experience, but they also want like a high touch experience all the way through the planning process. So they're expecting to go through the planning process and be guided by true experts. They're expecting to never have to like guess what's happening, or they're really expecting never to be stressed, which that part's a little unrealistic, but from beginning to end, they're expecting as close to perfection as possible.
Heather, what do you think about that?
Well, you kind of mentioned where we work is mostly the Mountain West. We're based in Colorado, but we work all over the West. We've, I'd say in the last 5 years, started doing some destination around the country and then expanded into Mexico and Italy, but we really focus on the West. So most of our clients either grew up in Colorado or grew up skiing here or, went to college here and moved away. And so a lot of our clients are New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago, kind of the coast, if you will, but they're coming to the mountains for a destination experience. And similar to Beth, like we work with luxury clientele, more high net worth in a lot of the mountain properties here. And so they're looking for a seamless experience, especially because their destination and most of their guests are traveling in. And so we're kind of working with them on just guiding them through not only the design process, but just vendor curation all the way through the weekend of and all of those events leading up to the wedding day.
Got it. How about you, Heather L?
Well, Heather and Beth basically said my answer. No, I'm just kidding. Really what Beth said, it's people, our clients are, come from high net worth families. They are expecting every single little detail to be perfect, not one detail missed. They want to come up with ideas, us to come up with ideas of things that, haven't been done before, and we're really all about the personalization of the couple and really taking into account like what is important to them and what kind of things will bring out their personality. So it doesn't seem like the same cookie cutter wedding. But definitely somebody who, wants somebody, a planning company who's going to be a step ahead the whole way through, hold their hand the whole way through, have every single, paperwork, all the paperwork buttoned up and just be on top of every little detail. Like they will notice everything. Lots of type A brides that understand how I am too. So I think we get along great and they appreciate all of the, details and the hard work we put into it. And then a lot of our clients are destination where Palm Beach is the destination. Most of them live in New York or other big cities, Chicago, Dallas, or, places in Texas. We've had some from Cleveland, Ohio, but a lot of mainly, I would say 80% New York City based, and they grew up coming to Palm Beach, or their grandparents lived here, or their parents have a second home here. So there's some kind of connection to Palm Beach of why this is a good destination. It's also easy to get to, and it's very, relaxed. So that's our general, perfect bride.
Okay. So you all mentioned word of mouth, which we know is king, but how much word of mouth and referrals do you find from like past clients or a bridesmaid at a wedding versus other luxury vendors that you work with? How about Heather Dwight?
Okay.
You want to start?
I would say word of mouth is a primary source of referrals for us. Just where we're at in business, you mentioned all of us are coming up or celebrating our 20th anniversary. We started in 2004. So we have a lot of previous clients, mothers. In fact, just yesterday I booked the brother of a bride whose wedding I did this summer. So I think that's really key if it's a, bridesmaid that attended the wedding or it's a sister getting married. And then we rely a lot on our venue and vendor network. I would say as planners, it's the venue. Sometimes photographers will refer us, but usually we're doing the referring out there. But I always love it if, a photographer can refer us. That's always a nice, bonus. But venues, like we definitely stay in touch with a lot of our venues here in the Mountain West and just the ones that we're on a preferred list with. We work with a lot of them over and over again. And so there might be changeover on their end, on their team, but we're constantly trying to stay in touch with them. And I think, Instagram is still, kind of a big source. I don't know if we're generally finding our ideal client through Instagram, but it is a way that people are seeing our work and they might have,
a friend who used us, and in fact, we just interviewed or had a consultation call with a mother of the bride the other day, and she is out of state and has been watching our work through Instagram, and we connected, and she's attending a wedding that we're doing in 2 weeks in Colorado. So just kind of like small world word of mouth connections.
I love it. Beth, how about your company?
Yeah, it is a lot of past clients, guests of our weddings. We oddly get referrals from people I didn't even know attended one of our weddings, but that's amazing. That means we did something right. Best of lists, we get referrals from there. And honestly, some of my best qualified leads are from other planners who are serving the same type of clientele. When they're booked, they'll refer me and vice versa. And we actually have like a nice referral system worked out with a couple of other planners. So yeah, a little bit of all of it, but it's very rare, like Heather mentioned, for me to get something straight from Instagram. I get a lot of inquiries from Instagram, but I'm usually not actually, they're not usually well qualified, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. How about you, Heather?
Almost solely word of mouth at this point in my business. I think that a lot of it has to do with the relationships that we built, and we have a lot of legacy clients where we're on their second or third siblings' weddings, which is such an honor. I actually like open up space in my schedule, like taking less random weddings on, to have those opportunities come up, which they have, and we're really fortunate for that. We have awesome relationships with our venues that we work at all the time. But it's also someone who attended our wedding or past clients, and, giving our name out, saying that you have to, use us. And it's tons of word of mouth. And same with me regarding Instagram. I get so many inquiries. They're not, most of them, the most qualified ones. However, I have booked some incredible weddings through an Instagram message, which is crazy.
Very cool.
I never doubt it, but it takes a little time to sift through, but there could be some good ones in there.
Well, speaking of Instagram, I have done deep dives on all three of yours, and it appears that you've been incredibly busy with incredible events. And so I'd love to hear maybe about a couple of the projects you've worked on in the last year or two that have been super exciting or challenging or just kind of unique. So Heather L., let's start with you.
In the last year or two, the top two that come to my mind, again, we do full wedding weekend planning. I've just really kind of streamlined my business where we're doing, less weddings, but better quality weddings and things like that. But the two that come to mind that stand out, we did an Instagram influencer, Katie Sands' wedding in Miami last year. And it's been one of my most favored weddings I've ever done. I mean, people come up to me saying, oh my God, that wedding you did was incredible. I think because she just used so much color, and she's such a fun personality, and she's just so vibrant, and, was featured in Over the Moon and Brides and got a lot of coverage, but she just is. That wedding was really cool because it took us out of our element of being in Palm Beach all the time, so we were in Miami. We were able to do a full wedding weekend where each event had its own little niche of categories. And she was such a cool bride that, she gave me the general gist of what she liked and let me run with the whole entire thing. Like every little detail or anything I came up with, she was on board for. And it was really such a fun one to plan because I was able to have like full creativity and just the trust. And it's always helps, when they're not so on top of you, like, I got this.
Yeah.
And then the other one I would say is I, again, took myself out of my little Palm Beach world, and we went down to the Bahamas for a wedding last year. It was full wedding weekend, amazing family from the Midwest, and everybody flying into the Bahamas for the weekend. A hurricane was coming to the Bahamas the week of the wedding. So it was just like extra challenge on top of it already being a challenge because we were out of our comfort zone. But we just surrounded ourselves with an A team, amazing vendors, luckily spared by the hurricane, and such a cool family. And again, same thing, like really beautiful wedding weekend, every detail, and also another wedding that had a lot of color, which I thought was so fun, but we loved it.
I love that. The ones that don't micromanage tend to be the best, most creative events. So yay for that. Heather, how about you?
I had a lovely similar experience this summer with a client who just design wise, decor wise, they were just really thinking outside of the box and lots of color, whimsical. We do a lot of sort of the outdoor tented Colorado style weddings here. And she just wanted to not do that traditional Western welcome, which we see a lot of, like the Friday cowboy,
Sure.
hats. And so she did a Where the Wild Things Are welcome party. So remember that book from all of our childhoods. And so all of the guests were encouraged to wear, some sort of animal costume or mask. And some of this whole group of her older like aunts and uncles dressed up like deer. So they had their face painted. And so it was just like very creative and whimsical. And she was a client that really just trusted us completely. And I echo Heather's sentiments there, where when you have a client that hires you and then they see, your design aesthetic and trust your vendor referrals and, your professionalism, it just, I think it comes together so well because you're able to really, do your best work in a lot of cases. And so the team was just so excited like that weekend. And so, proud of everything that they had accomplished. And so it was a really fun one to work on.
I love that. I'm so curious. What did the bride and groom dress up as?
They had like like traditional white, dress for her, but then they had these sort of like felted masks. I'll send you a photo.
That's fun.
But it was just like it wasn't cheesy or like you're thinking like Halloween dress up. It was very well done and very tasteful, and it was just like kind of this unique, just different Friday night event. So
Yeah, I love it.
That sounds
Very
fun.
unique. Beth, how about your team?
Yeah, we did a lot of amazing events last year. It was busy. I'm sure everyone was. We did a couple of multi-day weddings in Italy, one on the Amalfi Coast and one in Florence. Those are always fun. I mean, destination weddings in general, that's my wheelhouse. They're always fun because you're leaning into the culture and getting to show the guests kind of the couple's version of that destination. So those were great. I also did a huge production in Aspen last year, which we were very proud of. It was a multi-day, multicultural weekend. I think we did 7 events in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
But probably the one that was the most fun for me was a 40-person wedding in the English countryside. They flew all the guests into London. The first night was at the Nomad in central London. So the guests got like that taste of the city. And then on Saturday, they were shuttled out to the countryside. The first night was a picnic in the forest where guests kind of threw their wellies on and hiked into the middle of the forest. And we had like, I forget what it's even called, duck, like being cooked fireside over, it's is it a spit where they like,
yeah.
We were able to like get Liberty London fabrics and make custom linens and that sort of thing. And then the wedding day was super, super classic, super Bridgerton. But we just got to like touch all these different sides of the English culture that the client was really inspired by. I sound very spoiled. I love working in Italy and I love working in Mexico and all of those places, but I hadn't worked in the English countryside yet. So it was extra inspiring just because it was my first time to kind of tap into that culture.
I love it. Those all
Yeah.
sound very dreamy.
Yeah.
So moving on to 2024, fall is upon us. Everyone's back to school, and we are hearing that a lot of businesses say they're getting fewer leads or, bookings closer to the wedding date, with couples maybe being a little more hesitant to book. What is your all sense for couples getting married next year? Do you think that inquiries have changed in terms of like what they're asking for or how early they're booking? Maybe Heather L., let's start with you.
To be honest, I have not seen less bookings, less inquiries. I don't know if it's just a Palm Beach thing, but I've been still just as steadily busy, just almost turning business away on a daily basis with probably not as qualified leads. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, I haven't experienced that. We even are starting to book into 2025, which is like such a long lead time. But on the flip side, I do have inquiries where they're asking for like spring of next year, which to me is tomorrow. So I'm fully committed through June of next year. So I am like having to turn a lot of those away. So I guess because maybe I got booked more in advance, months ago, the shorter lead times aren't as applicable to us at the moment.
How far out are you willing to book?
I would say a year and a half is like definitely the max. That's even far, but at this point, I just feel like, and I don't know if it's just our market, but vendors are getting booked. I mean, we have a wedding next November where, even hair and makeup people are already booked. It's like, so I just feel like maybe just, again, I don't know about you other girls' markets, but I just feel like we're kind of seeing that people need to book a little bit more in advance here in Palm Beach. Like even dates at some of these venues, there's no dates. Like there's maybe one next fall, at some of the big venues. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
For sure.
Yeah.
Heather, how do you feel about inquiries?
I'd probably echo everything that Heather just said. I mean, our typical lead time is 15 to 18 months in Colorado, but we've certainly done sooner. I just had a consultation this morning for a June wedding of next year. So, we will still get those inquiries like that are shorter time frame. We're pretty well booked up for next year, and we're also booking into 2025. But I think we did see a pretty big influx of inquiries in the spring, summer for next year. And I think that was coming off of that. I don't know if it was like the post-COVID booking. Our inquiries have slowed a little bit right now, to be honest. And I think like Heather and Beth were both saying, we get a lot more inquiries than we actually book. I think a lot more like not qualified. And so just sort of figuring those leads out and who is a qualified lead for us and our process. But I think it's a little bit of a, kind of mix, like Heather was saying, like we'll see some who are, I'm getting married next year, and they're already a little bit behind because venues, I think, are still booking, well in advance.
Got it. Beth, how about your team?
Yeah, we're nice and busy for 2024. Our inquiries are steady, if not increased. I will say though, just to prove your point, 2023 has been incredibly slow for us. So this has been a very strange year for us, but 2024 is completely normal for us. I would say people are booking out longer than they ever have in my experience. Pre-COVID, 9 to 12 months was pretty normal. Now I would say like 14 months to 18 months is pretty normal. So we're working with our clients a lot further out. And I don't know what that's generated from, potentially like the fear during the COVID reschedules where everyone was hearing people were booked up. I don't know where that's coming from, but 2024 looks solid for me. I'm certainly not at full capacity, but I'm not sweating it either. It's in a good spot.
Got it. You all have been around long enough to know that at this point in the year, it's too early to sweat the inquiries and the bookings. So I'd like to talk about what we're all doing just to prepare for the new year. I realize it's only September, but it's right around the corner. Heather D, you just did a beautiful rebrand of your business. So I'd love for you to talk about what triggered it, why it was important, and was there anything with your rebrand that you wanted to emphasize more or less than before, and why?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for noticing that. We worked with Sarah K. Love out of California. And I just, like I said before, it's our 20th year in business. And the last time I did refresh of our brand was in 2013. So it was, coming up on 10, 11 years since we had done it. I know there's a lot of different schools of thought about rebranding. So I would say it was more of a refresh. I think we just wanted to sort of have a elevated logo a little bit and make our website a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit cleaner. Our aesthetic is definitely a little bit more clean, modern, sophisticated. I'm also, I don't want to speak for everybody on the panel, but I'm getting closer in age to the moms and the brides, and my team is definitely more our brides' age. And so I think just infusing a little bit more of a sophistication into our brand and reflecting back some of the weddings that we've had the opportunity to work on lately. So it wasn't totally a departure from our last website or even our last brand, but just kind of elevating the text, just having that opportunity to kind of relook at everything, because I think when we're in the planning season, we all just get so focused on planning, designing, executing that, like, looking at the imagery and what's reflected. I was just excited to use the off season for that. And I actually met Sarah at Engage in Dove Mountain last year. And there were other people that I talked to in the industry about potentially doing it, but I liked her, approach and just connected with her. And so I was like, okay, it's time to do this. So I think I love it. I love our new logo, and just, everything about it just kind of reflects where we're at in our business. And so I think it was time.
Yeah, you all did a great job. So
Thank you.
congrats. Beth, how important is brand for your business? So when you think of ensuring that your brand is fresh after all this time and remaining relevant to your clients, what do you think about and how do you do it?
Yeah, I think brand is obviously consistency and showing people what they can expect from you. And so when you're working with high net worth individuals, for me, it's less about a logo or less about the font I choose, though I'm incredibly intentional with those design choices. And it's more about showing them that you can deliver consistently over and over again, and that you understand the perspective they're coming from, the expectations they have. So for branding, for me, is a lot about just showing what I think is important when creating a beautiful celebration. And I do that through the way we, create the copy on our website and the images. And then, of course, like I said, the logo and fonts to me are just showing our clients that, like, the attention to detail is there at every step of the way, rather than like, oh, it has to be this logo because it says something about me. That's probably an unpopular perspective, but that's how I see branding.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've talked about relationships over and over. They're such an important part of our business. Heather L., you're based in Palm Beach, and obviously that's a totally different region than SoCal or Colorado. So I'm curious, how do you maintain relationships and ensure that your word of mouth is always working for you year in, year out?
Well, that's a good question. I just also want to say that I'm doing a refresh as well, but I'm never changing my logo because I have an emotional attachment to it.
Well, I'm excited to see what you do.
Well, I'm just saying, So anyway, well, I think, like I said earlier in the conversation, building the relationships with the clients, even after weddings are over, not just like, okay, your wedding's over, I'm never talking to you again, I think has really been a huge positive for me to have the repeat business with people and get the word of mouth and get my name out there with people, because I just feel like, once they come on board with us, they're like more of a building the relationship for life, not just for the wedding planning. Like, we're planning the party in the weekend that's going to kick off the rest of their lives together, but we stay in touch throughout the entire even past the wedding, when they have babies and they're sending me their holiday cards. And obviously with social media, it's very easy to kind of keep up with everybody and what they're doing. And, that when they come to the Palm Beach for a visit, they reach out to me, or if I'm in New York, I, have coffee with them. And I just think like maintaining the relationships past the wedding days and wedding weekends has been a huge benefit to me. Because you're always, staying top of mind with them, whether their sister's getting married or their cousin's getting married or their best friend is getting married or someone went to, who went to the same college or they were in the same sorority. And then they say that they're maybe thinking about hiring us. And then it's a connection. Oh my gosh, they knew me. It's just like, I think that goes a long way. Like making it a long-standing thing versus just I'm going to plan your wedding for a year and then we're never talking again.
Right. I love that. So let's shift to the sales process. You all work with high net worth individuals. Many of them are super private, and there are different decision makers depending on the client or parents or who all is involved. So I'm curious at what point in the sales process you talk about budget, or if it even comes up in the sales process, and how do you qualify them before spending too much time chatting with them? Maybe Heather or Dwight, do you want to take this one to start?
Okay, this is a loaded question. I think that there's a lot of different schools of thought on this, but I think like Beth was talking about earlier, we get a lot of maybe unqualified leads and inquiries, and there's a lot of people I think in the industry that are like, you should talk to everybody, or you should make time for every inquiry that comes through. I think we would be spending like all of our time talking to those inquiries if we did that. So we do have a short, kind of inquiry intake form that we have them fill out when they come through our inquiry process. We have a question that asks what their anticipated budget is and their kind of level of, we only do full service weddings. And so we just try to make sure that that's articulated, because I still think, and I don't know what it is with Instagram or our website, we'll still get month of inquiries or design inquiries. And so that's been interesting to try to understand, like, why is it, are we getting, what about our brand or our Instagram is not, are they just kind of sending a slew of inquiries out? So we do let them know right off the bat that we only do full service planning. And we also let them know pretty quickly what our minimums are, which I know is, sometimes people say don't do that. But we just want them to understand that we do have a minimum, and that what you're seeing on our website and Instagram is reflective of the type of clientele and the type of weddings we're working with. And so if that is a good fit for you, great, let's set up a call. But if not, then here's some great planners in our area that are a better fit. And we do refer a lot of our local wedding planners out if they're looking for month of. And then quickly, we do on that initial call or second call have budget conversations, because when we're, working in Vail or Aspen, or even at some of our all-inclusive properties, we know what they're charging, and we know what it takes to do a wedding for that particular venue. And I think, like a lot of planners in the luxury space, we're talking about a per person cost versus an overall budget cost. I mean, overall budget is great to know, but if they have 100 guests versus 300 guests, there's, kind of a difference in what they can do with that budget. And so we try to talk with them about, based on, where your wedding is, here is an average per person cost of what our weddings typically start at. And so we have a high level conversation there, and maybe within those calls, if it seems like their budget is like a hard stop on this number, then we quickly sort of say, this might not be the best fit for, what you're looking for in your vision. Or if there's flexibility in that, we just kind of want to know that going in, because I think even in the last couple of years with budgets going up, we've gotten into situations where, they'll see Pinterest or Instagram and they'll say, this is the wedding that we want. And we quickly understand that their budget is not aligning with their vision. And I think we want to know that really quickly so that we can deliver on their expectations.
Sure. Heather, at what point do you talk about budgets?
Oh, kind of on what Heather said, that's why we're doing a little refresh with my website. I hired a copywriter to just elevate some of the verbiage. Because again, I'm trying to lessen the amount of not qualified inquiries. Because, obviously, I think a lot of it I think Beth said that too. It has to do with like your copy on your website, and we have to update our photos and make it seem more luxury. I mean, I think the same type of thing of what Heather said, you go on our Instagram and you see these luxurious, beautiful, extremely detailed, amazing wedding weekends. Like in your head, you should understand that that's a luxury wedding. And I've been very like torn with how do you approach this? How do you like weed it out to where you're maybe still not, I'm not saying you're just only going to get the perfect inquiries, but I just mean, how do you like lessen the amount of completely not qualified ones? So I do have also on my contact page, the information that they have to fill out. And I just recently, and I don't know what the right answer is, I'm just playing around with ideas, but putting a drop down for the budget, because I would say budget range, or I would say budget is a required thing you have to in order to get through to the email. But now I have a drop down with like a starting, point like range. So if they click that and see it's not, I don't know if I have that budget, maybe they won't click it. I mean, they could lie and click it to get through too, I don't know, but I would just say, on an initial call, it's definitely brought up with like the minimum type of budgets that we would need to work with to have a luxury wedding weekend in Palm Beach. I think it has to come up right away, because the further you get into it, it's obviously if they're not going to be the right fit, you want to know that sooner than later.
Sure. Yeah, totally agree. Beth, what does your team do regarding budget?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as an educational process, to be honest. I think you can ask a bride what her budget is, and really it's an arbitrary answer. Certainly there are couples you're going to talk to that their budget is their budget and that's that. But what I've found is sometimes they're just pulling a number out because they think that sounds right. So I'm usually willing to invest, 20, 30 minutes into a call and then getting off the call and telling them, based on what you told me, this is where I think your budget's going to fall. Now, have I gotten into conversations that have been a total waste of time? Of course. Have I gotten lots of referrals from those couples though, later down the line? Absolutely. So for me, it's an investment worth making. So I do talk about budget on the first call, but I usually guide them on what the number should be instead of vice versa.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about the expectations and how you manage that when it comes to budget. I'm curious if you're willing to share if you charge a percentage or a flat fee or some kind of combination of those two, and how you ensure that your clients continue to trust you if that budget goes up, and kind of how you communicate those changes. Heather, Al, do you want to start this one?
Sure. Right now, I charge a flat fee. In my market, nobody does percentages. So I've thrown it out there a couple of times to see if anything sticks. And I just think that, the mindset isn't there for this market yet. But we do a flat fee. And I think that I just haven't, toyed with the percentage idea in our market. So
yeah. I'm sure you've had clients whose budgets have gone way above expected.
So budgets, what we do is, again, I'm super honest with them when we start. And I say, like, when we first start planning your wedding, we have the idea in our head, and like Beth said, it's an education process. Like, you and your parents might think X amount is the number, but then when we go in and realistically, like, I do a in-depth call with the couple, like as a first step in the process once they hire us. to really get to know what their priorities are and what they care about the most and what they don't care about. And, really think about their budget. And it's not just a cookie cutter budget, it's really puts together. I really put it together with their priorities in mind. And then, put that together and give them the realistic number and explain that this is a working budget. Like from day one, when you haven't either gone to a million weddings that you're going to go to between now and yours, or seen other things on Instagram and every influence that these brides get, and then they want this, this, and this, or all of a sudden you do want the flowers hanging from the ceiling. I do kind of give them a lay of the law down at the beginning, explaining that, here's the realistic number. It could be off from what they originally thought in their heads, because again, they need to be educated and they're not familiar with what things really cost. And also the inflation that we've seen over the last year or so, and how prices of everything have gone up. So, and I just say this is, a working budget, and you have, obviously everything's dependent on what you choose, but this is our main goal. Like, we will use this as a guideline so they understand. And again, building a trust within ourselves. I explain, I don't take commissions from vendors. Like I'm offering, curating teams that will be reflective of your style, taste, and budget. So we do offer things in ranges, like when we're presenting different vendors to them for them to choose, but it's all, pre-qualified and curated for them. And then, we try to stick within that. But yes, there's many times where then all of a sudden they want their invitation in a box, but how would I have known that when I just first met them and talked to them and they had no idea, so I do try to give them a little bit of background that like, this is definitely a working budget and it can go up or down, mostly up. But when, once, we get the process started.
Got it. Beth, do you want to chime in?
We're a percentage-based model, I'd say 80% of the time. I will do a flat fee with an escalation clause on occasion, depending on the situation. I come from the belief that I think planners should be the highest paid vendor on the team. And I think our fees should increase based on the scope and size and budget. To counteract and make sure they trust me, I do develop a really strong line item to budget based on their vision, but I also make it clear that they make every decision throughout the process. So I'm going to show them what's available in their budget. And if they say, oh, actually we wanted a boxed invitation, I'm going to say, okay, that's going to be X amount of dollars more. Are you sure that's the decision you want to make? So we have really transparent conversations literally every time they're about to go over budget. But I think I get why some clients might not trust a percentage based model. I also just have been on the perspective of the end where a client has been dishonest about their budget as well. Mm-hmm. So it's just not something I'm willing to bend on with a true flat fee. With the escalation clause, I'll start with like, we'll go through the whole budgeting process and we'll come to terms with a flat fee based on that budget. And then if they go over, then I go into the percentage model from there. Mm-hmm. And that feels good to a lot of people, though financially it's all the same really, right. But it feels good to them because they're going in and they're like, okay, great. We're committing to $750,000 budget. This is what the fee is. Like, I feel good about that. And then, we handle the budget a similar way throughout the whole mm-hmm. process though.
Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, if there is a client that doesn't want to go that route because they don't trust you, then it's probably not the best, client planner relationship anyway. So you've kind of dodged a bullet a little bit.
Yeah, and it does come up. And I think much to like what Heather was saying, like we're in it for the long game. So like when clients start digging at that question, I'm like, I'm not just trying to do your wedding and never talk to you again. I want you to refer me to every one of your friends. I want you to hire me for every milestone throughout the rest of your life. And I'm just an honest person, but in general, like I am motivated to keep you on track for all of those reasons. I'm not just trying to like make a big lump sum on this wedding and never talk to you again, so.
Yeah. I love the way you put that.
Your approach. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so great. Heather D, how about you?
Yeah, we have a team. So I would say my pricing is different based on which lead planner you're booking on our team. So as the owner, I'm booking our full service, full weekend. And I charge a hybrid similar to what Beth was saying, where it's a flat fee with that escalation clause. So we agree on a budget, and then there's a flat fee with the percentage kicking in if they go over that. And similar to Beth, like we develop a very line itemed out budget. I always say we're stewards of your budget. Like we want to be in constant communication with you. If they want to choose a vendor that's outside of what we're recommending, or bring in, a band that's, has a writer and more, production that goes along with it, then that's going to increase their music and entertainment line item. So I think that, and then with our team, with our lead planners, we do flat fee, although we've started to also add in that clause that if your budget goes over this set amount that we discussed, then we will review, if the scope of work changes, we'll review and reevaluate our budget. So I think it's so hard in the beginning when we're first talking to clients, because I think Beth said it, like they don't know what they don't know. Like they're coming in and they might say like our budget is this, but they've either, heard this number or think that this number is what they should be spending. But we, need to really get to know them. So it's really hard to say in those first couple meetings when we're writing the proposal, like this is an actual budget for your wedding. So until we're actually signing off on that budget and saying like for decor, for floral, for design, for band, food and beverage, this is what you should be spending, it's really hard to kind of say. And we've agreed on a flat fee for years, and then seen budgets, increase, and then we're still doing all of that work and not getting compensated for it. And I think Heather L. touched on this. In Colorado, for the longest time, a lot of planners weren't charging percentage. So it was really hard for us to shift to that model, because I think we were hearing, a lot of our colleagues and friends in the industry that were going that route. And, it's easy to talk to our clients who are used to hiring interior designers or architects, and they're charging a percentage for their work, and we're managing that whole umbrella. But when you are in a market where people aren't charging that, it's really hard, because then there is that distrust, because they're like, oh, this vendor's charging a flat fee, but and now we've seen in Colorado a lot more of our planners and friends here are charging percentage. So it's a lot easier when you're, I always say I'd rather someone go with me, not because I'm charging less, or go with someone else because they're charging, the same amount as me, but because aesthetically or personality wise, they resonated with someone else besides me, versus someone undercharging, and losing out on business in that realm. So I think it's even the playing field a little bit here in terms of like how people are charging, and we're a little bit more transparent in Colorado. I think a lot of our planners are friends here. We talk, we're not sharing exactly nitty gritty like how we're doing things, but a lot of us have been doing it for a long time here, and so we definitely talk about pricing and how we're doing things. So that's been really nice in this market.
Oh, that's good to hear. It always helps when there's others that do it with you. And sometimes it just takes open conversations and connecting with your other local planners, and because you don't necessarily know what the others are doing. So I think that's great. Shifting to creative partners, you all need amazing partners to pull off the weddings that you do. So I'm curious to hear how you find your different creative partners, and what are some pet peeves of yours when it comes to different people reaching out to solicit you?
You want me to go?
Yeah, go for it, Beth.
Oh, sure. So much like anything, I obviously have my like tried and true creative partners I've been working with for 15 years plus. When I'm working in new regions, though, it's usually very referral based. Not surprising. I'm asking, either venues or vendors who are serving the same type of clientele who they love and trust. We vet them, and that's how we do it. I would say my pet peeve is too strong of a word because I'm an entrepreneur and I get it, and we're all trying to get business. I think when people are trying to kind of manifest a relationship inorganically feels a little, it's like, you know, people in our DMs acting like they're my bestie is like a little bit weird for me because I know their motive. And so like, I know what they're doing. So I'd almost rather it just be like a, hey, I really want to work with you, rather than kind of the way they approach it. But that's just me. I think a lot of other people want like that kind of stroking going in, but I'm just like, let's talk about like what you're looking for and have a business conversation. But it's not, this pet peeve is too strong of a word. I get it. We're all trying to get work. So
Yeah, I love it. Heather L., how about you?
Same as Beth in regard to, we have our tried and true that I've worked with forever and ever and ever. I have my little world of vendors that I love from all over the country, not just from Palm Beach, but I really make a big point to make sure that whatever creative partner we're working with is in line with my brand. I think that's really important. Just because even going back to budgets, like if they only have X amount, let's say for a photographer, there's still photographers in a wide range of budgets that still would have the aesthetic and in line with the brand. And I'm not saying it has to be me, but you're picking my brand for a reason. If you're a bride, you know, usually we're all on the same page visually and who they would want to work with. You know, they go on your Instagram, they see the partners that you've worked with before. I would assume that they, and I've never had an issue, you know, like are also wanting the people that would align with my brand as well. I'm totally not opposed to new vendors. Again, would vet them through a process just to make sure that they would, you know, do the, you know, be a quality vendor that we would want to work with. And I just think that it is a little hard being a planner when there's hundreds and thousands of vendors in all of the different categories that are reaching out to you and want to work with you, to know. And same with like when all these clients or potential clients inquiries that you get like aren't the right fits and stuff, to have to weed through all of it. But I also don't like when there's aggressiveness from a vendor. Like I'm very kind to everybody who approaches me, and you know, I cannot have coffee with every videographer, photographer, you know, makeup artist that wants to work with us, but I always ask them to send information. I do look at their stuff that they send over, you know, forward ones that I think are potentials to our team, and just kind of go from there. But I think it is, to me, it's just making sure that your creative partners all have the same values that you have, so you can have a, you know, successful, seamless event.
Yeah, that's great. Heather, how about you?
Yeah, similar to both ladies. I mean, I think pet peeves for us are just things similar to both of them. Like we get reached out to a lot, and I'd say just more authentic. You know, like Beth said, just asking to work with us versus sort of the, you know, kind of Instagram stalking. We do add in new vendors every year. I mean, we've worked with the same vendors over and over, but we like to keep things fresh. There's a lot of new entrepreneurs in Colorado and just the Mountain West. And so we like to just see who's out there. But I would say like a more personalization, more authentic email or DM versus like the blank email that's everybody's BCC'd, you know, that's a little bit like quickly put that in the trash. But if it's just, I've gotten a couple of handwritten notes and I love that. You know, I think that I'm just kind of an authentic, just, you know, down to earth person. So I kind of appreciate those connections as well.
Could I add one thing? I don't know,
please.
With the vendors, I think what people don't realize is we can't hire vendors that are not at the caliber that our clients would expect. And so that, whether that's helpful or not, I think like the best way to get on the radar of a planner is for your work to be at that caliber. So it's nice to get like introduced. And if you think your work is on that caliber, that's where we should have the conversation. But I do think a lot of times we get reached out to by, you know, people who just aren't there yet. And we can start having a relationship before you're ready. But at the same time, I just can't. It's when you're doing a wedding of a certain caliber, it's a risk to refer a vendor outside of your network. So it's not like we don't want to. There's so many people I meet and love that I would love to refer, but I'm like, you're a risk. Like what happens if you don't deliver? Because you've never done anything like this yet. So it's just a hard risk to take, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. One more topic, and then we'll take some of the questions. And this actually relates to some of the questions that came in. The industry has gone through so many changes over the last several years. So people want to hear what advice you have to give, having been at this for so long, to somebody that might be newer to the industry or just starting out. What do you think could help them make their goals? Beth, why don't you take this one?
Ooh, advice to the industry. I mean, I don't have an answer for this, Nora. I'm sorry. Can I think about it for a second?
Sure, Heather. Al, do you want to chime in?
I was just gonna say, I've been around for so long that I have seen so many changes throughout the industry, and even with, you know, people coming and going in our market and different vendors coming and going, different people who work at venues coming and going. And I just feel like I have always stayed true to myself and my business and my values. And I've like stayed in my lane, and I don't like care about what all the other things, you know, like I literally like have done me the whole time. And I feel like that's just been such a success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a team lunch yesterday, and my team and I were talking about this, similar to this, but just I think being kind, and we always say we're only as good as the team that we assemble, and we really feel that way, from stationery to servers to bartenders to, you know, all of the vendors. Like I feel so grateful to everybody that we work with on a wedding weekend, but also our clientele. And I think with, you know, just like both of the ladies, like we've been doing this for so long. Before, when we started, it was like there was these websites that we had to build, and then it was like Facebook and social media came, and now, you know, there's just so much out there where people can review and say something online or do something, and news just kind of travels fast. So I think we really take our reputation and what we deliver really seriously for our clients. And that's, I feel like, what we have to go on into our next, you know, meeting with a client or a vendor, is just the work that we've produced. And we just try to be really consistent with that, but also just kind, so that you know, carries into those conversations with a vendor partner or a client. Because I think that it can always just like come back to you later in the.
I have an answer.
Okay, let's hear it.
I would surround yourself with other planners who have similar goals as you. Allison Hotchkiss of Allison Events has been my friend since my first year of business. And in the beginning, she was 100% my mentor. And now every now and then I get to give her advice. But essentially this industry, because it's changing so much all the time, having someone you can write to and be like, yeah, WTF, this new thing is happening consistently. Is this happening for you too? And then to say yes, it's just like so validating. It helps you talk through what to do and that sort of thing. And I have a larger network than her, but I use her as an example. Make lots of planner friends. Just all the relationships are important, but have someone you can call. Because also, I just don't think people get what we're doing. I think they think we just plan parties, and even our husbands and best friends don't always get what we're doing. So it's nice to have someone who gets you.
So
no,
true.
I agree with Beth 100%.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Network of planners, local planners that were, you know, on text threads and talk to each other about stuff. It's huge.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, we have lots of questions, so feel free to, anyone can jump in on these, but somebody asked, what helps you get the client to sign on the dotted line?
Having
Anyone?
the best personality. I don't know. I just think having quality work and, I think in conversations, being knowledgeable and having the years of expertise probably, might put you over the edge of someone who maybe is a little bit newer on the market. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I would, go
sorry.
ahead, Beth.
Just knowing what you bring to the table and making sure that differentiates you somehow. I know that's cliche, but that's really what it comes down to. Every couple is looking for a different thing too. Some of them are looking for besties. So if they're looking for their bestie and that's not who you are, then you're probably not going to land that project. If they're looking for like the utmost expert in Palm Beach, like you're probably going to land that project if that's you. So it's really like knowing what separates you and not being afraid to like let them go if that's not what you are. Yeah, and I think once you've communicated all of that, that's as much as you can do. I'm sure there's sales trainers that would disagree with me, but that's how I see it.
I think I have to throw this in. You have to make it easy for them to sign on the dotted line. So make sure you're sending a virtual contract so they can sign on the go or sign from their desktop. Whoever wrote that question, thank you for letting me talk about rock, paper, coin, but that's what we do. We make it easy for your clients to sign and book you quickly and easy. So what's great about that is it's, one of the first touch points you have with them after you've connected and you've had your consult and all those things, they're ready to book, and instantly trust is formed because you've made it easy and they're like, oh, they're so on top of it. I'm so excited about this relationship. So it's just another great way to build that relationship early on, to make it easy, and then you can go from there. Okay, another question. Let's see. How does 2024 look trend-wise for all of you?
I see a lot of couples really focused a lot more on connection and the overall experience, and a lot less worried about things like escort card walls and signature drinks. They might want those things, but it seems like under weddings that are very well done but feel underproduced seems to be the trend my clients are leaning towards.
Love that.
For sure.
I'm not sure how I feel about it yet, but like that's what I continuously hear right now.
Heather, do you see any trends popping out for 24?
I think I still see a lot of color. I think that people are not as afraid of color as before. It's not all just blush and white and nudes. And I'm definitely seeing this trend where couples are writing individual notes to each guest. And whether it's as their escort card or place card or, delivered to them at the table during dinner. I just have seen that a lot of our brides are wanting to do that now. So it must have been on TikTok or something.
I love that idea of having it delivered during dinner.
Really
I haven't seen that. Very cool.
Yeah, it's funny. My husband and I did that at our wedding and our anniversaries next week, and it's our 15th anniversary, and we wrote a little custom notes, and our couple this last weekend just did it for their escort card. They had a lot more guests than we did. We only had 70 at our wedding, and they had close to 300. And so my bride's hand was just falling off. But I think the personalization and just I think cliche as it is, we're all trying to find ways to have the wedding reflect our couple. And that's just my favorite part, is like not being like trendy, but just something that's they're going to look back on in 10, 15, 20 years and be like, that was still so us. And so I think really making it be about their guests and the guest experience, and, because we're doing destination, just finding ways to, like, whether it's a hike or, a bridesmaid, gathering or something where they can just connect with their guests, like really focused on that is what we love to do.
Great. Okay, one last question. I want to be sensitive to time. Somebody is asking about multicultural weddings. How do you kind of get in with more of those multicultural weddings if you're not already doing them?
I would like to know the answer to this one as well.
Oh,
because
goodness.
it's very, it's not as common where in my market.
I do a lot of multicultural weddings. I honestly fell into it. I don't have a great answer for this. I do a lot of Indian weddings, or Indian with a Jewish bride, or more of like a Western side. So I do a lot of that, but it started because Indian couples were calling me because they wanted something less like something that felt adjacent to their culture, but that felt fresher and more modern, so to speak. And so from that, I started developing kind of that network, but I fell into it. I didn't do a photo shoot. I didn't I got my first Indian client and they were like, can we do something that feels like an Indian wedding that isn't exactly what we see at every Indian wedding? I would suggest playing with cultural textiles and materials. I have a lot of maximalism in the stuff that I plan on my own, and I have a lot of design control, and I'm pulling textiles from India and Mexico and Italy and all of that. And I think that gets picked up by other cultures where they can see that I have an appreciation for culture. But I'm making that up. No one's actually said those words to me, but
I think also networking with other event professionals that work those types of weddings, or whatever culture you're after, especially if you've been around and you have the work to back you up, reaching out to a photographer, like a luxury photographer that shoots mostly Indian weddings or something. I'm sure they would be thrilled to work with any of you. So I think that's a great way, not only for cultural weddings, but networking and getting those higher end weddings in general. So I'm sorry if we missed your questions. I will reach out to you personally if we did. But I want to thank all three of you so much for joining us today. I know you are all three very, very busy ladies, so appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge with all of us. If you haven't had a chance to follow us on Instagram, Sari posted all the handles on you, so please do give us all a follow, and give Rock Paper Coin a try as well. We have the lowest processing fee available on the market, and just make your booking process a lot easier to help you build that trust early on. So thanks so much for joining us. Stay tuned. There's another Money Talks coming soon. So thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.